Good morning to everyone, and good day also. So, welcome to this webinar series on urban resilience and SDG localization. Today, we have webinar number 2 in this series, and we will be continuing with the topic of urban economic resilience. And we will look into the case study of the city of Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan. And let me remind you a few rules. So please keep your microphone muted during the session. You can have, if you have any questions, you can place them in the Q&A section in the Zoom panel, and we will take your questions later during the session. And also, we have a live interpretation into Russian language available. So if you would like to have a live interpretation into Russian, then you need to click on the globe icon in the Zoom panel below and choose the channel that you would like to use. And now I'm pleased to give floor to my colleague, Ms. Mia Alibegovich from UNECE, and she will give you a welcome and then explain a little bit more about today's session and the UNECE work in the region. So, Mia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jana. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure to welcome you today to the second webinar of the series on urban resilience and SDG localization. On 26 October, we had the first webinar of this series, which took a closer look to the e-learning course Introduction to Urban Economic Resilience Diagnostics and Action Planning during and after COVID-19. So in today's webinar, we will continue with this topic with the urban resilience, economic resilience, and we will delve into the case study of Bishkek. Before delving into the core of today's session, let me provide some contextual background. In my capacity as the Secretary to the Forum of Mayors, that's a subsidiary body of the Committee on Urban Development, Housing and Land Management at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, I'm delighted to highlight how our committee is actively involved in diverse initiatives with national and local governments. Our focus is on affordable, adequate, climate-neutral housing, compact, inclusive, circular, resilient, smart and sustainable cities, and also transparent and efficient land use and property registration. So as you can see from this slide, we have many tools and publications that can help cities foster more sustainable development. We have the first one that's placed and live in ECE, a Regional Action Plan 2030. That's a publication that takes specific actions to tackle challenges from the COVID-19 pandemic, climate and housing emergencies in the region, in the city, neighborhood, and home. Actually, member states report on its implementation through surveys, and they present the results at each of the annual committee sessions. Then we have UNECE produced also its regional guidelines for the development of voluntary local reviews in the ECE region to help cities develop their voluntary local reviews and to see really their progress towards the SDGs. Moreover, in 2020, the post-COVID-19 Recovery Action Plan for Informal Settlements in the ECE region project and subsequent publications also aim to provide really concrete recommendations to enhance the integration of informal settlements into the urban fabric of cities and to help really cities to recover from the crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Moreover, UNECE is also part of the United for Smart Sustainable Cities. That's a global initiative coordinated by us, ITU, and UN Habitat. This network really supports cities on their digital transformation journey to meet their goals and targets and really create the cities and communities of tomorrow. So here you can see one example of a smart sustainable city profile. These are only few of our publications. Next slide, please. I was saying the second main aim was to design, implement, and monitor sustainable, resilient, and inclusive COVID-19 economic and financial responses, recovery, and rebuilding plans. And the project targeted different cities, and within the UNECE region, we had Tirana, Albania, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, and Kharkiv, Ukraine. So we are really pleased to also announce that one of the project cities, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, will share its experience from implementing really the diagnostics and planning tool, and also designing an economic resilience building plan. We will learn how this experience shaped their plans, their city plans, and how it can be useful also to other cities in the UNECE region. Moreover, one of the most important outcomes of this project was the regional policy brief, and we will hear more about this from Mr. Juan Valle Robles later today, that I really thank to be here with us today. And to conclude, I really would like also to take this opportunity to thank our partners that contributed to this project in particular, but also the University of Geneva, which is hosting this online training platform, and Mr. Jana Antonenko, who is organizing these webinars, and also Mr. Maximilian Otto Andreas for his help and assistance in organizing this webinar. So thank you to everybody, and back to you, Jana. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mia. So let me briefly introduce you to the program of today's session. So first, we are going to look at the e-learning course again on urban economic resilience that we saw last time. But this time we'll just have a recap for those of you who were not able to join last time. And we will have after that, we will have a presentation from the city of Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan, and they will explain more about their experience in implementing the urban economic resilience diagnostics and planning tool. Next, we will have a video message from one of the experts who accompanied us during the first webinar. So Mr. Dmitry Pozhdayev from UNCDF will express some of his thoughts on the process of DPT implementation in Bishkek. Next, we will have video message. Next, as Mia has mentioned, Mr. Juan Valle Robles will explain more about the recommendations drawn from regional policy brief. And finally, we will have some time for your questions and answers and information about the next webinar. But before we proceed with this, we'd like to have a short quiz for you to answer some of the questions. So my colleague Maximilian will now start the polls that you can see on your screen. And there are two questions essentially, so you can answer them directly in your Zoom. The first question is, have you attended the webinar 1 of this series? And the second question is, have you taken any e-learning courses before? So we can give it a few minutes for you to answer these questions, and then we can share the results. So I think we have most of the answers. Most of you, 74%, have not attended the first webinar. So if you've missed that one, we can post a link to a video recording of it available in English and Russian on the project webpage. So you will find it in the chat of this Zoom, and you can revisit the first webinar in this way. And regarding the second question, so 56% of you are saying that you have taken e-learning courses before. So yeah, the majority has taken, but also 44% says that have not taken e-learning courses before. We think that the Urban Economic Resilience course that we are going to mention today is a very interesting and very useful course if you want to learn more about urban resilience, diagnostics and planning, and how to enhance the urban economic resilience of your city. So we will now proceed to the next part of our session. Like I mentioned before, today we're having webinar 1, which is related to course on urban economic resilience diagnostics and action planning during and after COVID-19. And in total, there are 6 webinars planned in this series that will run from October 2023 to March 2024. And you can find more information about them on our project website. We will also be posting links to it in the chat. And these webinars are, of course, free of charge, and they are available both in English and Russian languages. So to recap about the platform itself, the platform is called City Resilience Training, and the courses that are hosted there are online, self-paced and free of charge. And I can show you briefly how the platform looks like. So the interface is available both in English and Russian, as you can see, and you can filter the courses by categories, by topics, and to access the course, you need to register and then log in, and you will be able to access the course contents. And also, as you can see, this, for example, Urban Economic Resilience course is already available in English and Russian. So the course is very interactive. It has a lot of features, so we really invite you to explore it. In general, the course objectives are to help participants build knowledge and skills related to urban economic resilience performance and diagnostic, as well as planning for recovery and rebuilding actions to enhance the urban economic resilience in cities. And it's a project, it's a product of a joint interagency project that my colleague Mia has been mentioning before. So in total, 7 UN agencies were involved in this project. And in a way, this course is a repository of all this knowledge that was developed during the project. And it has 3 modules. Module 1 is a more general one, which talks about general urban resilience concepts. Module 2 is more of introduction into the tool itself and the diagnostics phase. And module 3 is more about the planning phase of the diagnostics and of the tool and the global policies that you need to take into account when designing and implementing the plan. So the course is very interactive. It has videos, tests, quizzes, and images, clickable elements. It also has a voiceover for most of the slides, so it's really, I think, fun and interesting way to learn. And also there are certificates available for each of the modules, and the final course certificate available as well. In the course, because today we are looking into Bishkek case study. Bishkek was one of the project cities, and there are examples from Bishkek as well. Here you can see the ones from the Russian version of the course. And you can see there are quizzes as well and case studies, and we will have a look now more into this. So today we actually have two presenters from the city of Bishkek. I think we can start with the presentation of Mr. Tibekov. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Yana. Can I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Good day, dear participants. I will do my presentation in Russian. Please switch to the Russian if to English to language for you.
Good morning and good afternoon to all the participants. We had a small session yesterday. I would like to share our experience of implementing this tool. I, as a consultant of UNECE, I actually worked on the data together with the mayor's office, and then in the planning activities in preparation of the plan. The plan has not been yet implemented, but we discussed for a long while how it can be actually promoted and how we could go ahead with the implementation of this plan. It's an interesting city, and the municipal officials believe that they know their city better than anybody else, and they are in a better position to identify their priorities. But the instrument the tool actually showed that it's not really true. For instance, this resilience performance graph shows that there were certain pitfalls there in their understanding, and the general assessment was that Bishkek was demonstrating low indicators of resilience that indicated the necessity to improve the situation there, especially openness and integration into external markets, then mobility of labor and management structures as well. And you remember that at the first webinar, we looked into this model in detail, and the assessments were as follows on RPIs. And one could actually notice that the local economy is not diversified to the extent needed, especially in some branches. And then the expenditures of the budget definitely impact the regional gross product. The statistical data shows that. Then the openness and the external market integration is also of a low rating, D+ only. Then entrepreneurship and innovation demonstrated medium level indicators, although the economy is developing quite dynamically. And if you look at the statistics, then you will see that it will be kind of biased towards, say, trade. And as regards RPI 1.4, productivity, economic and financial potential, demonstrated level B, and it actually demonstrated that the city can develop very well. As regards the sustainability of the local labor market, One can say that it's moderately diversified. However, the employment level is higher than in other parts of the countries because, you know, the city has the status of the capital city, and definitely the labor market is more diversified. Then, as regards mobility of the labor and opportunities to increase the potential of the labor in Bishkek, these are quite good. And the social protection is dealt with, is controlled by the authorities, but the municipal authorities do not have much say in this area. As regards the local financial system resilience, again, I would say that this is over the last few years, the situation has started to change positively. It's not as good as in Kazakhstan, of course, but there's some positive dynamics. And the technologies are developing, but I didn't hear that they had an active cooperation with the Bishkek authorities. High rates and diversification of the credit portfolio, which looks quite natural. Because Bishkek is developing, and this is characteristic of many developing countries. The financial space is limited because of the legislative limitations. I would say that the majority of taxes in the country and the revenues are collected at the central level, and then they are redistributed to local levels. Even those taxes that are collected by the local budget are still believed to be the all-state taxes, and then they are collected. This tax is collected by the central tax service and only then redistributed to the local authorities. Therefore, they are not in full command of these revenues. So they're limited in their capabilities there. Financial health and stability are at a moderate level. As regards resilience of the economic governance, one could say that the structure of the economic governance is at a very low level, and it demonstrates weak indicators. The scale and quality of urban planning, again, are at a low level. I actually provided assistance to the city myself, and I can say that in practice it is very true. The investment preparedness is assessed as a low level preparedness, and D+, and it actually indicates a low capability to attract investment. As regards resilience of the basic infrastructure, services, and connectivity, as regards the coverage and functionality of main services, government services and infrastructure, again, are at a low level because many services are provided at the all-state level. And it is very hard to influence on this situation. Then the coverage by the health services, for instance, is again low. Well, it's a little bit higher, but it is assessed as a B level. Because it's the capital city, so you know the whole of the country actually goes to Bishkek to be treated medically. As regards, you know, at the time of the assessment, you know, the infrastructure, the connectivity infrastructure was really very weak. And I would like to say that the pedestrian, for instance, connectivity is still very low. Or cycling paths, for instance, are very few. And it's not safe as well, you know, because there were a lot of scooters used on the pavements. pedestrian infrastructure should not be combined with the car infrastructure. Our recommendations and conclusions that we made were that diversification is needed here. Conditions should be made for local businesses. In order to diversify the economy, we have to create opportunities for new businesses, then to decrease the dependence on the external market. We'll have to improve the internal demand and support the activities in the area of arts, entertainment, relaxation, and so on and so forth. And we have to also take care of the active cooperation of the city authorities with the high technology park. In order to improve the resilience of the local labor, we have to create a municipal program for professional training or retraining for unemployed women, young people, and other vulnerable groups. Then the resilience of the local financial system, we have to increase transparency and the transparency of the revenues and expenditures parts of the local budget. We also have to improve the participation of the citizens in accordance with OGP local. Bishkek is now part of this initiative, and yesterday we had a meeting with experts of the city, and we discussed together with the economic entities what kind of activities should be taken in order to promote the values of the local government. Then there was a proposal to establish a local program to create a local market for securities. As I already mentioned, the fiscal opportunities are very much limited by the current legislation, and the option is still open to issue securities and use the revenues to finance certain programs. However, we haven't observed yet a lot of enthusiasm on the part of the mayor's office. And then to improve the transparency and accountability, we have to run auditings together with the citizens, but it's only a proposal at the moment. As regards the economic governance, there's a council which is active, and I'm part of that council. However, there is no regular dialogue going on with the local business. We actually had plans for the year, but I think we haven't had the meeting for half a year or so, or even longer than that. Then we have to disclose the information of municipal assets, like buildings, ground, land, and that would open opportunities for joint usage of these assets with the business. As regards the basic infrastructure resilience, we have to create a well-connected cycling paths system, and that will help to develop the economy of joint consumption. One company is already doing it in the city, but due to the fact that there are certain companies that are renting out electric scooters, the injury rate is growing and has been growing for a while already, because the people ride on these electric scooters on the pavements. So there's a problem, and we have to create a separate infrastructure which will be separate from the roads, separate from the pavements, and that would help to this joint usage economy will boost the development of such economy. Thanks to this, in accordance with this tool, we have to, follow and try and achieve the following objectives: create conditions for the resilience of the local business environment, then increase the potential of labor and its capacity for the resilience of the local labor, then financial technologies, improving transparency of the municipal governance, and regular dialogue with business community and organizations of the civil society, and as well improving resilience of the basic infrastructure. I will not go into the very minute detail of it, but I will show you just a few examples. We can see a cross-cut, so to speak. We see how it is, for instance, assessed, and we are showing what kind of result we would like to achieve. We would like to go from C to B, for instance, or from D to C, and we want to take certain steps in order to achieve that objective. So when we go over to another section, speaking about actions, we provide more detail as regards the actions to be undertaken to achieve the objective. That depends on the will of the mayor's office itself. But you know, we provided the material. No working group was created, though, on the part of the mayor's office, and what kind of resources they would allocate for the work of the people involved. But we actually had to find some external sources to fund these activities. For any statistical document, we need to analyze the risks, to carry out risk assessment, and we did that. But unfortunately, we didn't get any feedback. However, the tool itself and the structure itself are very attractive and very useful, and definitely would help the city's development. That brings me to the end of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakitbekov, for this insightful presentation. Yes, if anyone has any questions, please place them in the Q&A section of this Zoom panel, and we will take them a little bit later on. So let me go back to my presentation, and I think we will now move on to the next part of this session, and we'll have a video message from the expert, Mr. Dmitry Pozhedaev, who was with us during the first webinar, and who explained more about the methodology and the diagnostics phase of the tool. So he will talk a little bit more about his thoughts on Bishkek's implementation of this tool. So let me try to start this message.
Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to be part of this webinar and have the opportunity to address you. In the previous webinars, some of you may have attended that one. I spoke about the diagnostic tool, the Urban Economic Resilience Diagnostic and Planning Tool, that's the full name, and how it is applied. Today we are discussing the practical application of the tool in the city of Bishkek, and I would like to commend our colleagues from Bishkek for the efforts they took to apply that tool in the city and also to follow up on the key findings and the recommendations of the tool, which came through a series of additional briefs and additional guidelines. Following the application of the Urban Economic Diagnostic and Planning Tool, my colleagues from the UN Economic Commission for Europe and myself visited Bishkek a couple of times. We met with representatives of the city. We met with the other relevant stakeholders, government and non-government, as well as with a number of development partners to discuss how we can implement the recommendations of the diagnostic tool. What has been found during the diagnostic itself was that the overall city resilience needs a lot of improvement. And the particular areas where such an improvement is required include openness and external markets integration. The city needs better labor mobility, stronger economic governance structures and leadership, more diversified economy, and also more fiscal flexibility in terms of the not only the amount but also the type of revenues that the city collects, as well as more autonomy in deciding on its actions in the areas that may contribute to improved economic resilience. We have discussed with our colleagues in Bishkek how we can go ahead and what may be done in the short to medium term to improve the situation. One of the actions which coincided with the diagnostic was the establishment of the City Development Agency. And we as partners very much welcome this development. There is a potential of transforming the City Development Agency into a City Development Corporation, which in addition to the project development function, would also have the function of direct implementation and financing of strategic urban development projects. And our engagements with various colleagues in the city of Bishkek show that this objective can be achieved. There is interest on the part of the Ministry of Finance, on the part of the Bishkek Exchange, on the part of development partners to explore more advanced ways and approaches to financing urban development. We are very grateful to our colleagues in Bishkek for submitting urban investment proposals to the International Municipal Investment Fund, which is implemented by the UN Capital Development Fund and some other partners. And we hope to be able to work with them on these projects in the future and to implement them. And I would like to thank all of you, but particularly the city of Bishkek, for all the efforts, for all their work to analyze, to strategize, and to implement very specific actions to improve their urban economic resilience, and we hope for our future cooperation. Thank you so much.
So this was the video message from Mr. Dmitry Pozhdaev from UNCDF, and I think we can still go back to Miss Chinara Kebekbaeva from the city development agency of the city of Bishkek, and she could explain us more about how actually the city has tried to incorporate all the recommendations from the Diagnostics and Planning Tool into their current plans and initiatives. So Ms. Chinara Kibekbaeva, please, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon to all the participants of the Economic Resilience webinar. I would like to express our gratitude to the UNECE for the organization of such a webinar and the invitation to participate and speak on the part of the Mayor's Office of Bishkek. The city of Bishkek is the capital of Kyrgyzstan and a modern cultural, political, and economic center. The population stands at higher than 1 million people. Bishkek actually inputs a lot into the economy of the republic, and the GDP is quite high. As regards the dynamics of the growth, after the COVID-19, we have observed the positive growth. And of course, the main share is taken in the economy by the construction and services. Then I would like to let you know of the programs and activities that were undertaken by the municipality to improve the resilience of the city. In order to comprehensively develop the city, there was a program, Bishkek 2026, adopted, which actually sets forth activities for the development and creating comfortable and decent environment for the citizens of Bishkek and the visitors. The priorities of the program are the following: growth of economy and improving the local budget, then a friendly urban environment, then modern infrastructure in the city, then attractive architectural and art image of the city, and a number of other priorities as well. Speaking about the priorities, well, there have been main recommendations and main recommendations worked out in the course of implementing the project of the UNECE. It identified the priority objectives, improving the revenues part of the local budget, optimizing the expenditures of the local budget, then improving the municipal governance, then ecosystem of the city, communications networks, public transport, parkings, pavements, and cycling paths. Next slide, please. Within the framework of this program, in order to develop the business environment, there was a special program for the development of entrepreneurship was adopted, which actually includes certain objectives and goals, including the macroeconomic stability and improving the business environment. The municipality has worked out a concept in accordance with the Smart City plan. And using the computer systems, improving the quality of services, and developing the digital infrastructure in areas like transport, education, healthcare, and utilities. Then there was a special guideline on the KPI by the Mayor's Office of Bishkek. We have identified the achievements, the progress, and created a progress report. Then the mayor's office is doing a lot of work in order to improve the investment climate and attract the investments into the economy of the city. Interaction with various investors is going on. For instance, we are purchasing electrobuses. There's a project to improve the quality of air in the city of Bishkek in order to improve the environment. There are certain measures undertaken. There's a plan of action that is going to be implemented within the framework of the Green City Plan, and then which will help resolve ecological problems of the city. Then there was an agreement signed to purchase a number of electric buses. More than 250 electric buses that use the biofuel will be purchased within the framework of the agreement with an international bank for development. As regards the electric drive vehicles, the city has installed 40 charging stations within the city limits. Additional work is carried out in order to improve the situation with the services, and then the electronic ticketing service, for instance, is being implemented, and the payments are made by non-cash methods. In December 2021, an agreement was signed for the comprehensive development of the 5 informal settlements, and there's a comprehensive plan for the development has been worked out for the transport, pedestrian infrastructure, engineering infrastructure. An agreement was signed with for the creation of private-public partnership as well for the construction of a modern market. That will help create new jobs and improve the economic situation in general. Drawing a bottom line under my presentation, I would like to wish you every success, and I stand ready to cooperate with you in the area of improving the urban resilience at all times. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chinara, and I think it's very interesting to learn about the many projects that the city is implementing right now, and also to learn that our joint work with the city has been useful to shape cities' plans and initiatives. So we will have now a presentation from Mr. Juan Valle-Robles on regional policy brief recommendations in the UNECE region, which were part of this project and which I believe could be useful to other cities to learn more about, to also take into account when designing and planning the economic resilience plans. So, Mr. Juan Valle-Robles, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. Please allow me to share my screen with my presentation. Okay, thank you so much, Jana. Thank you, Mia, also for your presentation. I will present the UNECE regional policy brief for the urban economic resilience during and after COVID-19 pandemic project. As the name mentioned, the policy brief is for the whole UNECE regions, not only for some cities. My presentation is structured in the 4 thematic areas of the recommendations and 1 best practice for these thematic areas. You will find some of the recommendations that my colleagues Bishkek and Dimitri already mentioned in this regional policy briefs. In the beginning, I would like to invite all of you just to get access to the UNECE regional policy briefs. You can scan the code or get access to the site or the website of the UNECE Housing and Land Management Unit. Mia and Jana already explained about the project and what is the part of the regional policy brief inside the UN Rapid Response Project focuses specifically on the following areas: the massive loss of jobs and unemployment across the region, dwindling local government budget and revenues, a big problem that Dimitri and Bishkek already explained, and enormous socioeconomic losses in the urban and peri-urban economy. We have to mention here that in some part of the UNECE regions, in the Central Asia and in the Balkans, a big part of the economy is an informal economy. What about the regional policy brief? This policy brief complements and builds up on the existing UN rapid response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in addition to the 3 relevant United Nations policy briefs on the global COVID-19 outbreak. This policy brief, as I mentioned it about the United Nations, are the following: recover better, economic and social challenges and opportunities, COVID-19 in the urban world, and responding to the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. What is the main goals of the regional policy briefs? To provide an overview of the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic in the UNECE regions, identify urban economic resilience needs of cities across the regions, and offer policy recommendations, best practice, tools, and mechanisms for sustainable urban economic recovery. As I mentioned before, my presentation is structured in the 4 thematic areas that the policy briefs develops, that are urban governance, socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, nature-based solution, gray and green, and climate neutrality, and urban planning and transportation. Let me start with the first thematic area of the recommendation, the urban governance. The first recommendation on this topic is that all cities need to develop urban economic resilience and recovery plans, and that plans has to be fully integrated with other socioeconomic, environmental, and urban planning actions, using all the technical perspective, also legal framework and financial mechanism to support their national and local governments. Financial support for the local and regional governments is a crucial part of the national stimulus and recovery measure during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. As I already said, my colleagues Bishkek and Dimitri already mentioned the importance of the revenues and the local taxes to develop a strong plans for the recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic. And cities need to improve data collection in partnership with national statistics agencies. The policymakers need strong and good data to provide good response in the emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic. Without data, they are blind to make a good policy response. Aligned with the recommendation of urbans, I would like to introduce you the first best practice, in this case, the case study of Barcelona, the city of Barcelona. In May 2020, during the lockdown, the city of Barcelona presented the Barcelona Deal, emerged from a realization that the magnitude of health, social, and economic crisis created by the COVID-19 pandemic will require bold new approach based on a vision of the city future shared by a wide range of citizens and local community. The strong point of the Deal of Barcelona is to introduce a strong relationship with the community and the participatory of the whole community in the development of the emergency plan for the recovery during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me continue with a recommendation with the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Cities should build a strong relationship with the civil society, small, medium enterprise, and local business and communities, and involve them in the urban economic resilience, recovery plans, and the decision makers. Public consultation is vital to improve public policy initiative and build citizens' trust and engagement. It's really important to engage the community and listen to the small business, the small, medium businesses to be part of the emergency plan. And also, as I mentioned, in some part of the UNECE regions, the informal economy is one of the big reality. And the second recommendation is to provide a networking platform where all levels of government, civil society, the private sector, and all the relevant stakeholders can engage in developing and implementing urban economic resilience and recovery plans. The best practice that I want to introduce in this case is in North Macedonia. The best practice is engaged with the small, medium enterprise and the policy response after the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. North Macedonia has adopted fiscal measures to help address liquidity problems in the small, medium enterprise, protect jobs, and support the most vulnerable groups that are aligned with the UN Common Agenda, leaving no one behind. Expenditure for business support, subsidized and private sector waste, social security contribution for firms that maintain employment, postpone income tax payment, laws and favorable terms of loan guarantees, and sector-specific support. The third thematic recommendation is nature-based solution, gray and green, and climate neutrality. Nature-based solution and their enable framework need to enter the mainstream across national policy frameworks. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that one of the key preventive measures to safeguard public health is access to clean water. In addition to clean water and fresh water, urban public space, green space, city parks, urban forests, and landscapes are vital for the community health and the wellness. Nature-based solutions can be multifunctional, cost-effective, and provide a wide range of benefits, from improving public health and reducing energy costs and pollution to regenerate urban space and promote urban economy. Let me introduce you the case study of POPMAN, a mapping and assessing ecosystem service to support decision-making. Nature-based solution and urban regeneration policies aim at achieving the following in the case of POPMAN: systematic identification of areas with the lowest recreation ecosystem service capacity as place in need of transformation. Identification of priority areas that could be benefit from new green space are facility basis, population size, and demand for recreation service. The last recommendation in the thematic areas is the urban planning and transportation. Cities should introduce measures to link territorial and urban planning with urban economic resilience, cultural and natural resource planning to respond to the socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the climate crisis. Urban planning principles as a tool for urban economic resilience. Urban planning and urban design should design the city following the territorial model and coordinate with the neighborhood urban center, considering the urban economic, local community, environment, and territory. The urban and spatial planning is vital for integrating different urban sectors into a coherent spatial strategy. The best practice linked with this recommendation is the case study of Milan. The Milan adaptation plan during the COVID-19 pandemic was implemented in May 2020. The goal and recording urban public space, reactivation of green space, park, sport, centers, and facility. The project of Piazza Aperta, open squares, is every neighborhood. We already mentioned and know the importance of the public space and green space across the city during the lockdown and during the recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. And urban actions to reduce mobility and diversify mobility supply. I'm going to stop here, but please follow UNECE on the social media. Thank you. Back to you, Jana.
Thank you very much, Juan, for this so insightful presentation. And just to remind you that, as Juan mentioned before, the full version of the document of this policy brief for UNECE region is available on Urban Economic Resilience project website, and we will also post the links to it in the chat, so you can access it. And I wanted to briefly show you how this is reflected in the e-learning course. So the policy brief of UNECE, together with other policies, forms part of Unit 3.2, policies as directives for action. And this unit summarizes most of the recommendations from 5 regional policy briefs, as well as talks about the global policy recommendations that were developed during the global policy dialogue event. And again, this information is also available not only in the e-learning course, but also on the project website. But we really invite you to explore the course. And as I mentioned before, it's available both in English and Russian versions. So we hope that you can take it. And I think now it's the time for questions and answers. So if you have any questions regarding the materials that we presented today, please feel free to raise your hand, and we will give you space for this. And you can also place your questions both in English or Russian. We will address them. So does anyone have any questions? And if this is the case, please raise your hand. Okay. I don't think there are any questions. I don't see any hands. So I hope that still means that the materials presented today were of use to you. And if there are no more questions, we would like to remind you that there will be a next webinar in this series. Currently, we are still fixing the date for it, so please keep an eye on our project website that is here. You can find here, and also in the chat we'll post a message with a link to it. And also, when you register for this webinar, you can find the link to this website there. And the next webinar will be on different e-learning course topics. So it will be on informal settlements and formalization of informal settlements in the UNECE region. I can actually see a hand from Emmy Galama.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Good morning. This is Emmy Galama in the Netherlands. I cannot open my video, so perhaps you closed it, or you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm representing International Council of Women, and I also should like to know whether there is a good communication with the inhabitants, and very often women groups can make very good solutions and be good partners during urban planning and planning of streets and houses, etc., etc. So in Milan, in Potsdam, in Barcelona, I should like, I will open my video. Okay. I should like whether there is also the participation of inhabitants, not only the officials, but also the inhabitants. Thank you.
Thank you. So please, one of our experts, speakers today, if you could answer this question, just feel free to.
In the case of Bishkek, within the framework of the work that we have undertaken, there was no engagement of the citizens. And what we actually proposed, we actually suggested that there must be certain platforms in order to engage the local citizens and discuss the urban planning issues. Well, there were certain consultations launched with experts, but of course we do understand that we have to have a wider coverage for the city residents themselves, and I fully agree with that, but this hasn't happened.
Thank you, Bishkek. Any other comments from other experts?
Hi, Jana. Thank you. Hi, Amy. Thank you for your question. I think it's really important and really relevant. Let me link your question with the MIA presentation that already mentioned that this webinar is not only for present this project, also for the SDG localization, and MIA already introduced the UNECE guidelines for voluntary local reviews. I think one of the recommendations in the UNECE regional policy brief and the guidelines to develop voluntary local reviews is to engage stakeholders and the most vulnerable groups. You mentioned Barcelona or Milan, that of course is really relevant to involve all the communities, including women, but women in some other contexts, maybe in Central Asia or other countries, are more vulnerable than in Milan, in Barcelona. So one of the pillars of the recommendation in the UNECE regional policy brief is to engage all the stakeholders and the local communities in the making decisions with the local governments.
Thank you, Juan. I hope this answers your question, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to you for your question. Are there any other questions from the audience? Let me try to check. Please raise your hand if you have any other question. So I don't see any other questions. So yes, we would like to thank you all for participating in this webinar. I hope it was useful and interesting for you. And we hope to see you in the next webinar, which will be, as mentioned, dedicated to formalization of informal settlements in the UNECE region. And we would also, last thing we would like to ask you is to take a survey. After closing this Zoom call, you will have automatically a window with post-webinar survey where you can provide your comments and for us to have a little bit more feedback from you. And the survey is very short. It's just 6 questions, and we would be grateful if you could answer them. Thank you very much to everyone, and we hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you.